learning objectives. At the end of this topic, you will be able to explain the term celestial objects, discuss about moon and its various phases, understand about stars and constellation, explore the solar system, describe about the host of asteroids, comets and meteors. Introduction. Sheila went to her cousin's home for a vacation. After dinner, they came out for a walk. Look at the sky on a dark, clear night. You see the entire sky dotted with countless stars, some bright and some not so bright. Observe them carefully. Do all of them appear to twinkle?
No, some of them don't twinkle.
The objects which do not twinkle are planets. The moon is the brightest object in the night sky. The star, the planets, the moon, and many other objects in the sky are called celestial objects. Let me tell you more about this in this chapter. The moon. We can notice that there is a change in the shape of the moon every day. There are days when the shape of the moon appears to be perfectly round, and there are days when the moon cannot be seen at all, even if the sky is clear. The day on which the whole disk of the moon is visible is known as the full moon day. Thereafter, every night, the size of the bright part of the moon appears to become thinner and thinner. On the 15th day, the moon is not visible. This day is known as the new moon day. The next day, only a small portion of the moon appears in the sky. This is known as the crescent moon. Then again, the moon grows larger every day. On the 15th day, once again, we get a full view of the moon. The various shapes of the bright part of the moon as seen during a month are called phases of the moon. Let us try to understand why phases of the moon occur. We have studied that the moon does not produce its own light, whereas the sun and other stars do. We see the moon because the sunlight falling on it gets reflected towards us. We therefore see only that part of the moon from which the light of the sun is reflected towards us. The size of the illuminated part of the moon visible from the earth increases each day after the new moon day. After the full moon day, the sunlit part of the moon visible from the earth decreases in size every day. The moon completes one rotation on its axis as it completes one revolution around the earth. The moon is a fascinating object for poets and storytellers. But when astronauts landed on the moon, they found that the moon's surface is dusty and barren. There are many craters of different sizes. It also has a large number of steep and high mountains. Some of these are as high as the highest mountains on the earth. The stars. We can notice that there are a large number of stars in the sky. In fact, stars emit light of their own. The sun is also a star. The stars are millions of times farther away from the sun. Therefore, the stars appear to us like points. In fact, the stars are present in the sky during the daytime too. However, they are not visible then because of the bright sunlight. We will find that the stars appear to move from east to west. A star which rises in the east in the evening sets in the west in the early morning. There is actually a star, the pole star, which is situated in the direction of the Earth's axis. It does not appear to move. Constellations. The stars forming a group that has a recognizable shape is called a constellation. We can easily identify some constellations in the night sky. For this, you should know how a particular constellation looks and where to look for it in the night sky. One of the most famous constellations which you can see during summertime in the early part of the night is Ursa Major. It's also known as the Big Dipper, the Great Bear, or the Saptarishi. There are 7 prominent stars in this constellation. It appears like a big ladle or a question mark. There are 3 stars in the handle of the ladle and 4 in its bowl. Orion is another well-known constellation that can be seen during winter in the late evenings. It is one of the most magnificent constellations in the sky. It also has 7 or 8 bright stars. Orion is also called the Hunter. The 3 middle stars represent the belt of the Hunter. The 4 bright stars appear to be arranged in the form of a quadrilateral. The star Sirius, which is the brightest star in the sky, is located close to Orion. To locate Sirius, imagine a straight line passing through the 3 middle stars of the Orion. Look along this line towards the east. This line will lead you to a very bright star. It is Sirius. Cassiopeia is another prominent constellation in the northern sky. It's visible during winter in the early part of the night. It looks like a distorted letter W or M. The solar system. The Sun and the celestial bodies which revolve around it form the solar system. It consists of a large number of bodies such as planets, comets, asteroids, and meteors. The gravitational attraction between the Sun and these objects keeps them revolving around it. The Earth revolves around the Sun. It is a member of the solar system. It is a planet. There are 7 other planets that revolve around the Sun. The 8 planets in their order of distance from the Sun are Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Let us know about some members of the solar family. The Sun is the nearest star from us. It is continuously emitting huge amounts of heat and light. The Sun is the source of almost all energy on the Earth. In fact, the Sun is the main source of heat and light for all the planets. The planets look like stars, but they do not have a light of their own. They merely reflect the sunlight that falls on them. The simplest method of identifying planets from stars is that stars twinkle whereas planets do not. Also, the planets keep changing their positions with respect to the stars. A planet has a definite path in which it revolves around the Sun. This path is also called an orbit. The time taken by a planet to complete one revolution is called its period of revolution. The period of revolution increases as the distance of the planet increases from the Sun. Besides revolving around the Sun, a planet also rotates on its own axis like a top. The time taken by a planet to complete one rotation is called its period of rotation. Some planets are known to have moons or satellites revolving around them. Any celestial body revolving around another celestial body is called its satellite. The Earth can be said to be a satellite of the Sun, though generally we call it a planet of the Sun. We use the term satellite for the bodies revolving around planets. Moon is a satellite of the Earth. There are many man-made satellites revolving around the Earth. These are called artificial satellites. The planet Mercury is nearest to the Sun. It is the smallest planet of our solar system. Because Mercury is very close to the Sun, it is very difficult to observe it, as most of the time it is hidden in the glare of the Sun. However, it can be observed just before sunrise or just after sunset near the horizon. So it is visible only at times where trees or buildings do not obstruct the view of the horizon. So it is visible only at places where trees or buildings do not obstruct the view of the horizon. Mercury has no satellite of its own. Venus is Earth's nearest planetary neighbor. It's the brightest planet in the night sky. Sometimes Venus appears in the eastern sky before sunrise. Sometimes it appears in the western sky just after sunset. Therefore, it's often called a morning or an evening star, although it's not a star. Venus has no moon or satellite of its own. Rotation of Venus on its axis is somewhat unusual. It rotates from east to west, while the Earth rotates from west to east. Venus shows phases just like the moon. The Earth is the only planet in the solar system on which life is known to exist. Some special environmental conditions are responsible for the existence and continuation of life on the Earth. These include just the right distance from the Sun, so that it has the right temperature range, the presence of water, and suitable atmosphere, and a blanket of ozone. From space, the Earth appears blue-green due to the reflection of light from water and landmass on its surface. The axis of rotation of the Earth is not perpendicular to the plane of its orbit. The tilt is responsible for the change of seasons on the Earth. The Earth has only one moon. The next planet, the first outside the orbit of the Earth, is Mars. It appears slightly reddish and therefore it's also called the red planet. Mars has 2 small natural satellites. Jupiter is the largest planet of the solar system. It is so large that about 1,300 Earths can be placed inside this giant planet. However, the mass of Jupiter is about 318 times that of the Earth. It rotates very rapidly on its axis. Jupiter has a large number of satellites. It also has faint rings around it. You can easily recognize Jupiter as it appears quite bright in the sky. If you observe it with the help of a telescope, you can also see 4 of its large moons. Beyond Jupiter is Saturn, which appears yellowish in color. These rings are not visible with the naked eye. Saturn also has a large number of satellites. One interesting thing about Saturn is that it is the least dense among all the planets. Its density is less than that of water. Uranus and Neptune are the outermost planets of the solar system. They can be seen only with the help of large telescopes. Like Venus, Uranus also rotates from east to west. The most remarkable feature of Uranus is that it has highly tilted rotational axis. As a result, in its orbital motion, it appears to roll on its side. The first 4 planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth and Mars, are much nearer the Sun than the other 4 planets. They are called the inner planets. The inner planets have very few moons. The planets outside the orbit of Mars, namely Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus and Neptune, are much farther off than the inner planets. They are called the outer planets. They have a ring system around them. The outer planets have a large number of moons. Some other members of the solar system. There are some other bodies which revolve around the Sun. They are also members of the solar system. Let's discuss about asteroids. There is a large gap in between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. This gap is occupied by a large number of small objects that revolve around the Sun. These are called asteroids. Asteroids can only be seen through large telescopes. Comets are also members of our solar system. They revolve around the Sun in highly elliptical orbits. However, their period of revolution around the Sun is usually very long. A comet appears generally as a bright head with a long tail. The length of the tail grows in size as it approaches the Sun. The tail of a comet is always directed away from the Sun. Many comets are known to appear periodically. One such comet is Halley's Comet, which appears after nearly 76 years. It was last seen in 1986. At night, when the sky is clear and the moon is not there, you may sometimes see bright streaks of light in the sky. These are commonly known as shooting stars, although they are not stars. They are called meteors. A meteor is usually a small object that occasionally enters the Earth's atmosphere. At that time, it has a very high speed. The friction due to the atmosphere heats it up. It glows and evaporates quickly. That is why the bright streak lasts for a very short time. Some meteors are large so that they can reach the Earth before they evaporate completely. The body that reaches the Earth is called a meteorite. Meteorites help scientists in investigating the nature of the material from which the solar system was formed. Let's know about artificial satellites. The artificial satellites are man-made. They are launched from the Earth. They revolve around the Earth much closer than the Earth's natural satellite, the Moon. India has built and launched several artificial satellites. Aryabhatta was the first Indian satellite. Some other Indian satellites are INSAT, IRS, Kalpana-1, EduSat, etc. Artificial satellites have many practical applications. They are used for forecasting weather, transmitting television and radio signals. They are also used for telecommunication and remote sensing. Summary. Let's summarize the topic. Moon is seen due to the sunlight falling on it getting reflected. Moon has a large number of steep and high mountains. Stars appear to move from east to west. Constellation refers to the stars forming a group that has a recognizable shape.